start off and just talk a little bit just about general features in those charts that I like quite a bit. And then I'm going to teach you a little bit of a support and resistance method that has its foundations in geometry that I think is pretty powerful and also pretty straightforward to use, but it'll give you some non-traditional, non-linear support and resistance levels to target your trades and to look to put on some of those great spreads as various markets come into those levels. Okay, I tend to be a little bit interactive where I can, so please don't hesitate to put questions in the chat. A couple of things will happen as we do that. If I know the answer, I'll probably just give it to you right then and there. If I think I'm going to answer the question in just a minute, I'll tell you that. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you that too. All right. So my name is Craig Russell. I am with Tradier. I did used to run the eSignal product for quite a while, so I have a massive affinity for the charting, the technical analysis, the alerting capabilities and whatnot that is inside of that, because my fingerprints are on pieces of it, which also means if you guys, there's something you don't like, you can kind of blame me, I guess, too. But I now work for Tradier, which is the parent company of an online broker-dealer. And in order to make our compliance and legal departments happy, I have to throw up some disclaimers. Well, those are sinking in, which is essentially, there's risk in trading the markets, in trading equities, and trading options. Want to let you know that Tradier is one of the integrated brokerage choices within eSignal. I'm going to show you how to use some of that power of the order functionality within eSignal to execute your trades at real precise levels and set them up for yourself, as well as just being generally alerted. At Tradier, we don't have our own great big whiz-bang front end, quite honestly. We are more interested in partnering with folks that build and distribute that kind of experience, a la eSignal, because that allows us to do what we think brokers really should be doing anyways, which is providing you great service at great prices. This is our rack rate standard commissions pricing right at the moment. It's $3.49 an order on equities, and ETFs are included as equities, and 35 cents a contract on options. All right. Now there is a minimum on options. It's a $5 minimum for single leg and $7 minimum for multi-leg. Those are minimums. I want to stress minimums, not ticket charges. So what that means essentially is, let's say you did a four-legged butterfly, right? So you just take that. You're doing 4 legs in a strategy, and you did 10 per leg, 10 contracts per leg. That's going to cost you $14. Because as soon as you pass 7, it just becomes 35 cents a contract for everything. All right. So keep that in mind. I am also, and I will put this back up at the end as well. Since we believe in the power of things like eSignal, we also have an offer for everybody here. If you open and fund a Tradier account and you use this promo code eSignal3, and I'll pop this in the chat at the end as well. We can sign you up for eSignal if you're not currently a client, or even if you are and you want to switch to this and take advantage of it, you can do that. We'll give you 3 months worth of eSignal minus exchange fees. We can't cover those because some people will want to see futures, which is not something we trade, and a few other things. But it's basically $210 a month that we'll eat for you, and give you $200 in free trade credit to try it out and use the connectivity and the great functionality inside of eSignal. So that being said, I'm going to go back ahead here and pull up the application. I'm not much of a canned presentation guy, generally speaking, and some of you in here may know me. So I just kind of like to work from within the platform and the software itself. So I've just got a nice little open page, and there's all kinds of other fancy things that we can do inside of eSignal, but today I'm really concentrating a bit on the chart and a little bit of the built-in trading functionality, and then, like I said, I'll transition into doing a little support and resistance work for you. You're looking at a bar chart right now because that is my own personal preference. I'm going to show you the other chart types that eSignal has, but I just happen to like bars. So don't panic if you look at this and you say, oh my God, they're in the Stone Age, it's bar charts. Maybe Craig is just in the Stone Age. The platform itself is not, however, right? You do have a massive selection, and I just right-clicked on that in order to pull up the chart types, and you get a nice little edit chart window here. And you can see right here that bar chart is selected, but you can also get to candles and histograms and line charts and area charts, Hankin, Ashikaga, point and figure, Renko, and price break charts, as well as a whole host of other chart styles that have been built inside of their scripting language called EFS, stands for eSignal Formula Script. But just from a built-in standpoint, you can certainly always get candles if you like candles, and you can hollow them out, use them. So it gives you a lot of options as a technician, right? And these are really some best-in-class charts. Let's say you're more of a line chart. Okay, maybe you want to overlay symbols and compare them in a line chart. That's one of the beauties. You can actually do that here with any eSignal, right? It's pretty straightforward to right-click in the middle of your chart, say insert a symbol, and then tell it, oh yeah, I want to overlay the main chart with this. So I have the ES in here. Let's say I want to overlay that with the Dow, just for fun. And I don't like a bar chart, that's messy, so now I'm going to select this as a line, and I'm going to say use an alternate color because I want to be able to differentiate the two. Oh, excuse me. So anyways, it's really simple to be able to do all that stuff with an eSignal, and now I'm going to go and delete that so that it doesn't look so messy. Back to my line chart, which I didn't want, so I'm going to go back to my bars. And there we go. All right. Now, with any eSignal, one of the neat things about these charts is you get a plethora of not only indicators, and we'll just look at those really fast. How many people in here just love their indicators, by the way? And hey, Kevin, quick question for you, if you're still out there. How do I see the attendees' questions in chat? Because I noticed while Larry was presenting, I couldn't see it. There's a questions panel now for me. Maybe that's where it's going to come in. I'm going to open that questions panel up now just in case that's where it's coming in. But you can see here, you know, you've got a wealth of built-in studies, whatever you want. Auto wave choppiness, your standard momentum indicators, moving averages, very simple to very complex, your parabolics, various pivot points. If you're a fan of the Advanced Get program and subscribe to that as well, you'll notice that all the Advanced Get stuff is in here, as well as a fair amount of other add-ons, you know, from various folks, including our friends here at Day Trading Zones right there in the middle. You'll notice you can get all of Mark's lovely indicators right on these charts themselves. But on top of being able to put indicators, and what I really want to spend some time talking about in just a minute here today really is what I think kind of the cream of the crop are all the potential drawing tools, because I'm a big support and resistance fan myself, personally. And by doing some drawing, using some math and some geometry, you can really come up with some very interesting targets for both price and time to a certain extent, right? Now you've got your standards in here, very easy stuff, things like simple fib retracements. Let's just use this one, right? And you can set templates. You'll notice I've got one here in quarters. I'm going to go change that to the default so that everybody is more accustomed to the regular fib ratios. But it's just a calculator, right? One thing you have to remember about any drawing tool, and this goes for any platform as a matter of fact, they're just calculators. So if you adjust the ratios, just because it says it's a Fibonacci retracement tool doesn't mean you have to stick with just the fib ratios. If you've got some other ratios that you like, you can always set those in there as well and use it to do the calculations for you. Now this is a simple, nice little fib retracement, and clearly for that little swing that I measured, we well surpassed our 618 level. But one of the neat pieces about any of these drawing tools, and this is as good a one as any to use as an example, is that you can turn any of those lines into living, breathing alerts. There is, and I'll just zoom in on it here, there is a little alerts tab inside of the edit drawing tool dialog. All right, and all I did to get that up was double click rapidly on the fib retracement that I'd drawn there. Okay. When you set that and click on that tab, you'll notice there's a little checkbox that says enable alerts. Well, okay, we wanted to turn these into alerts, so let's enable them. Then the next piece that you'll notice is this alert area here, and it says min ticks right here on the right. And I'm just going to zoom back in so that everybody can see this. When we're doing work on our charts and drawing areas that we're looking for support, resistance, CIT spots for changes in trend, you know, the computer is really, really precise, right? I mean, it's doing math, and its whole job and reason for existing as a computer is to do a whole lot of math. So it's really precise. Well, when you draw a line of any kind, fib retracement, fib extension, trend line, horizontal, doesn't matter, that's a very, very precise number in the computer's mind. Well, as technicians, a lot of the time we'll look at our levels and maybe, you know, the candle wick or the bar doesn't exactly tap that line, but it turns off of that general area, right? Well, it never hit the line, so if the computer's looking specifically at that line, it's not going to send you an alert. So this alert area here allows you to set kind of an envelope around your drawing tool and say, oh, well, you know, when it comes within X number of ticks, and the reason it's measured in ticks is the fact that, you know, equities trade in pennies, but things like futures will trade in quarters or full points or what have you. Forex trades in pips, right? So they're all ticks at the end of the day. So you can take this and say, well, I want to know when this thing comes within, 50 ticks of my line. And oh, by the way, automatically reactivate that so that every new bar that hits there, I'm going to know. And if you want to set an expiration time, if you think that you know, this is only good for a couple of days or a couple of hours, if you're looking at an intraday chart, you can click off an expiration time, and then you can have it automatically go away after your time has expired, so you don't have to worry about going back and erasing those kinds of things. Then from an alert standpoint, you can have it show a pop-up, play a sound, even send you an email if you want, and give yourself a very specific message for all of that, both in the pop-up and the email. And that capability, and I'm just going to get rid of this, that capability exists with any of the drawing tools. So regardless of whether you're drawing, say, just a regular channel, if I go look at that, you'll notice I have my alerts tab. I'm going to delete that. Let's say you're a fib circle fan. All right, well, let's pick up a circle. You can turn any of those surface areas in the circle into an alert. Now, once you've got those areas, and now I'm just going to draw something on here for fun. I'm going to go back to my fib retracement for fun. Set that at the default. Now, once you've got these, let's say you actually wanted to think about doing some trading, all right? Let's say you wanted to find a precise point in your support and resistance work to enter an order. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do that here within eSignal. One, you can always just right-click in the middle of the chart and say, you know, new order. It's contextually smart. So it knows if you've clicked below the current price, well, maybe you're trying to place a limit sell order. Maybe you're trying to place a buy stop or a stop limit. All right. So you could easily do that. So let's just go down here and we'll just, I need to throw something in that I'm, yeah, I'll do it on that paper trading. There we go. So let's see that. Let's say we wanted to buy down there. Well, now I've got a little buy limit out there. And if I wanted to know specifically, right, what level that's at, you can see that it's over here at 208 and in green. And generally, I would want to see those lines extended. So I can go up here into my, I can go here into my chart and edit the chart to make it stick a line all the way across. I'm going to show you that. So right here inside of trading, extend position lines. For orders, extend the order line, and there you go. You see that? Now I've got this little line going all the way across my work that tells me exactly what level that order's at. Now if I want, I can drag and drop that, and you see how the line moves with me? So if I wanted it specifically right at that 618 retracement level, I could just move it, drag it, drop it, done. It's there, it's doing what it's supposed to. Now the same, if I want to cancel it, I can always hit this nice little X. Let's say you don't like right-clicking like that. There's a nice little slide panel that you can bring into play that'll let you do some very quick executions. You can buy market, sell market, hit the bid, take the ask, or place limits to buy at the bid or sell at the ask. But then this nice little buy-sell will just let you drop a line, and it'll change contextually anywhere you want. So since I went above the price action here, let's say I thought I was going to break above that high and I wanted to be in, I could set that right up there. And then let's say I wanted to have some kind of a sell order as well. So I want to have a sell stop. Well, if it breaks this 50 level, let's say, now I can set that. And I've got both of those orders out there. And again, both are drag and droppable to adjust really easily. And or I can just kill it and cancel. And if I don't want to see that panel anymore, I can just make it go away. I'll just go back up to this nice little trading button and slide it off to the side and clean my chart up. Any questions on how that works right at the moment? All right, I'm going to take that as a not quite, so I'm okay with that. One of two things, I've stunned you into silence, or I'm doing a heinously bad job and you have no questions. I don't know which one. Okay, let's talk about how we could use some of this to trade some options as well. Tradier happens to be the only integrated broker that supports multi-leg order functionality within eSignal. So when you pull up a new order ticket and you have Tradier selected as your brokerage here, you can actually get, oh, I know that. So let's go pick an equity. You can actually create a multi-leg order now within eSignal on top of Tradier. We're the only broker that supports it. And it gives you the ability to come in here and pick up to 4 legs, whatever it might be. Now, where is this trading? I'm going to go find something that's actually reasonable out there. All right, and to add a leg, you just simply click these little plus buttons right here. To remove legs, you click the X. That will let you submit up to 4 legs, like I said, as a spread order, straight through to Tradier. Neat little addition that was just made. Is not there for everybody, but is something specific to Tradier at the moment. So we're pretty happy and proud about that. Those are kind of the highlights that I wanted to cover to start with as far as this advanced chart goes. Obviously, we talked a little bit about studies, talked about different chart types, the way to set alerts on some of those drawing tools, and then also how to go about entering orders, seeing them on your chart, manipulating them on your chart live. So before I move on, any questions on anything I've talked about so far? All right. Good enough. Okay. I like to do some non-traditional support and resistance work. It's GAN based. I'm going to show you guys a really easy technique here that can be used to generate some pretty powerful levels, and then we'll go through some examples. But I do need a little bit of help here at this point. I got a couple of questions I need to ask you guys. Our chart, right, is comprised of what, basically? It's comprised of time and price. Traditional chart, right? Not a volume-based chart, not a tick-based chart. This is a traditional, just average everyday daily chart. And I'm going to go put, I don't know, price line in here maybe. I thought I was going to put price line in here. Well, that's pulling data in. Maybe I'm bogging down my internet connection with this. But while that's coming in, let's just go back to something that I know is already in. While that's coming in, our charts are comprised of time and price, right? Now, a point in time would generate what kind of line on our chart? And I'm clearly having some kind of issue here. This is the downside to doing live stuff instead of a PowerPoint. Yeah, I can use the blank chart for now, though. A point in time, right? Since time goes which way on our charts? Time goes this way, right? And price goes this way and this way. Does that make sense to everybody? So a point then in time would generate what kind of line? If some line, think of some kind of line where time is exactly the same all along that specific line. And I am a little flummoxed as to why my charts are not coming in. Now for this part, this will work. Really? I'll tell you what, let's go over here to a different chart and see if that won't work. I'll just use this one and I'll spread it out. So a point, right, in time would generate a vertical line like that. Because everywhere along that line, right there, at every spot here along that vertical line, the point in time is exactly the same, right? So while time goes this way along the bottom of our chart, a singular point in time actually produces a vertical. Now, price goes up and down vertically, but it generates all by itself a horizontal line. Because everywhere along that purple horizontal line there, price is exactly the same. Does that make sense to everybody? Hey, Kevin. No, Kevin. All right. Um, but everywhere along that, right, price is the same. Now, this comes into play in a couple of different spots. I'm going to delete that vertical, right? I think everybody is probably pretty commonly familiar with your standard sets of support and resistance. But in case you're not, I'm going to just, pick out a drawing tool from a horizontal here, and I'm going to say, okay, look at this down here. Yeah, that was some support for a little while right there, right? I mean, we can see pretty clearly that after this low was established, yeah, it's supported there. It's supported there. It really never got a close below it. It tried to grip it right here, but couldn't hold on. And what happened? It broke that support, right? Now, how do you know that was a pretty good level? There's a couple of ways. One, it was tested basically 3 times. But 2, and this I always like to see personally, what happened once that support got broken here? That was a beautiful little retest right there, right? Tells you that that was a pretty darn important level, because the market came back to it and said to itself, I really like that. I want to see if I can be back above it again. And what happened? Complete rejection here, right? That led to a pretty nice little tumble. So that kind of standard horizontal support and resistance, it works really well actually. Right? It can point out some great spots. If you would have had this around in here, you would have had an idea that you should be looking to execute some buys, right? Maybe get long some spreads that would take advantage of any upside while limiting your downside. And it works as well on highs. Let's go back to the S&P, and this happens to be a weekly chart. Well, let's turn it into a monthly chart really fast. It's one of the other nice parts about these eSignal advanced charts. You can play with just about any kind of time frame in each bar or candle that you want. Oftentimes, I like to get different views, and I like big views. I don't get to day trade very much these days, unfortunately. So it's a lot of swing trading for me, and that requires some bigger view work. So this is now the S&P with a monthly look. And if you take a look from these highs back here, I mean, geez, that's not bad. I think, we all should have been aware, and probably were, of that previous high. They got rejected. Now what happened out here, once it broke it, it actually retested right in that little bar. So again, that's a pretty nice and important level. And you know what? Should the S&P come back down here, is it 1574 basically? Should it get back down there? I'm going to be really interested in seeing what it does down there. I'm going to be really interested in seeing if it will try to bounce off of that. And if it looks like it's going to try to bounce, I think that's a level you got to be cognizant of looking to put on some long side exposure at. And we got a little work to get down there, don't get me wrong. But it's important to know that. And that's just some standard, easy support and resistance stuff from previous highs and previous lows. Very straightforward, relatively generic. You can probably already know this kind of stuff sitting in here, but I got to put us all on the same level. Now, what is kind of interesting is that anything you can do in price like that with these support and resistance levels, I'll leave that for now. You can also do in time. You may notice that within eSignal, there's actually a Fibonacci time tool. All right? And I'm going to use that now and show you what I like to do with them. You use it the same way as the retracement or the extension, but you just go pivot to pivot in time. So now you're doing support and resistance in time, not just in price. And you'll notice, are we off by a little bit? Yeah, we're off by 1 bar from the high here and 1 bar from the low out here. So when I'm looking especially at time, I always like to think plus or minus a bar. But this 1618 absolutely gave us a good spot to look for that little near-term small pullback to come to an end in time, because these areas in time are just places to look for a change in trend. So you look at what the market was doing going into that. Well, for instance, here it was coming down, so you'd be looking for it to make low. Here it was going up, you're looking for it to make a high. Here we're near term moving down into that level, you're looking for it to make low. All right? So keep in mind, anything you can do in price, you can also do in time. And a real simple way to start out is just some straightforward fib levels. And I oftentimes, that's the default, but I oftentimes personally like to also turn on 2.0 for myself. So I'll go in here, I'll make this 2. Because I want to see exactly where that swing came out. And you know what? Take a look at this. That actually happens to be the exact high on this monthly in the S&P. Because now I've looked at this from big picture wise, right? So I don't know, you tell me, was that worthwhile? All I did was go high to high with this tool, and now I've got points in time, and I could have turned any of these into alerts as well. And it did actually give us the month that gave us a high near term here for the time being in the S&P. Excuse me. All right, let's get rid of these lines now. And then let's go and talk about some non-traditional styles of support and resistance that you can generate. So we've looked at straight, nice, easy, previous high, previous low, horizontal support resistance. We've looked at resistance in time, support within time with a vertical. If you put both time and price together in a ratio of any kind, what happens is you end up getting what? You end up getting something with slope to it, right? You get a trend line, as a lot of people would like to call it. The key here is that anywhere along this particular line, right, any place along this line, time and price are in the exact same ratio to each other at every point on this line. And when I say ratio, that's what gives it slope. It's the ratio. It's so many bars over and so many ticks up. That gives you the next point in the line. That ratio is consistent and constant anywhere along this line. So now you have what I refer to as a rate line. Gann called it a rate line. And it's simply a line made up of time and price in a very specific ratio. Now, when Gann was doing this kind of work, he had fixed graph paper. So a lot of his stuff is simply 1 by 2, 1 by 3, whatnot. Here in the modern age, we don't have graph paper. We're not working off of that anymore. We have what I like to call squishy charts or squishy paper, right? Because I can do this with it. I can spread it out. I can scrunch it. Right? And that all changes the way the line looks. However, what it doesn't change is the specific ratio of time to price no matter what I do to this squishy paper, which is why it's important for us to try and figure out a way to establish scale for ourselves. And taking a decent trend line establishes scale. Right? And the scale is simply the ratio of time to price that exists to generate that particular line. Now, what's kind of interesting is that you will find markets pay attention to specific scale and specific rates. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Well, I'm going to drag this back, and now I'm going to switch it so I get some more time. I'm going to switch it back to a daily. I'm going to go way back here somewhere. That's 2013. Maybe that's not far enough. Yeah, here's 2012. That's pretty good. Now, if you take a, let's just grab this swing right here. I like that swing. It was pretty long. It was pretty lengthy. And if I take a I take a pretty standard trend line from there. That's not bad. Once, twice, 3 times, third time, cracks, retests on the very next bar, and then fails. All right. That's not bad. One of the neat parts about eSignal is I've established that line, right? It's got a very specific slope and rate to it. The ratio of time to price is there. If it was important once, it's highly likely that it's going to be important again another time. All right, so I have this line at this point in time. I actually have this line at this point in time right here. All right, you can't argue that by connecting these two dots, I had this line before the market ever got here, and certainly before we were way out here. I can just right-click on that line, and I can duplicate it. And now I've got the exact same rate. I've got the exact same ratio. And when I found a new pivot that's established itself, or I think is establishing itself, guess what I can do? I can attach that line to that pivot. I did that and could have done that. Something dinged at me. I get a little scared when I hear dings. Oh, it's my alerts. Sorry. I have alerts going off in the background. So, you know, you can't argue that I had this before the market ever did this. That was probably pretty important. Wouldn't you have liked to know that that was an area you should be looking for potential reversal as we came into some support? And this is non-traditional support and resistance. And I just want you to keep looking at that line and that slope and that rate and how well it works. It keeps working. I'm just going to copy this one more time. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to add it to this pivot back here. I mean, do you guys think that it kind of likes this as a rate? Yeah, it failed there. This is not an exact science. I wish it was perfect every single time, but it's not. Right? But it gives you certainly enough hints. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. I don't know if you can ask for too many more hints to be looking for potential changes in trend and reversals. And you can keep doing this over and over as each new pivot comes in until the market, by demonstrating, and by demonstrating I mean it stops paying attention to that specific scale, until the market stops paying attention to that specific scale, you keep using it over and over again on each new pivot. Now I'm just going to grab one of these and go way out into the future because I don't know. Let's go out here. So here we are with that exact same scale right now, present day. Now this has been pretty steep in here lately. There's no doubt about that. But I'm still going to be really, really interested to see what happens when this market gets back down to this level. And if I remember correctly, we have a fib level probably somewhere down in there. I'm not sure. Just set this to the default. So now what do we have right here and right here and right out here and eventually right out here, although I don't think it'll ever get that far in time. What do we have? We have horizontal support hitting our rate line, and everywhere that that crosses, guess what those are? They're actually a point in time, right? So you're getting not only some pure price support and resistance out of this, you can see some levels, some areas in time, because you can simply run a vertical through those intersections and come up with some timing work. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second and ask if there are any questions on what I just showed you, because now I'm going to show you how to do something slightly different with those rate lines. Nope. All right. So it turns out that if a specific rate like this is kind of important to a market, these were all uptrends that I used here, right? Well, if a specific rate is important on the uptrend, its reciprocal or the inverse tends to be important in downtrends. So what we need is a nice, easy, simple way to just calculate the reciprocal of this darn thing. Well, luckily within these eSignal advanced charts, there's a simple way to do that because you can draw, it says rectangle, but the reality is it's a parallelogram. So you can choose that parallelogram drawing tool and simply anchor the two corners anywhere along your line. Doesn't matter where, it just matters that the two corners like this are both on the line. So there and there. Because by being on that line, you're fixing the ratio of that rectangle / parallelogram, right? And now to get the reciprocal of that line, guess what all I have to do is just connect the dots. I connect that corner to that corner, and now I've got the reciprocal of it. Well, that one's pointed down, which is going to make it useful in downtrends. I mean, look at that. It gave you a place to look for a high, place to look for a high. When did this thing actually take off? In here, once it broke it and retested it. And just just like we did on the upswing, well, now I can just duplicate that, or I can just choose to move it if I really want, but I'm going to duplicate it. All right, and I can use that for any potential high pivot along the way. This is definitely one of those cases, by the way, right in here, when what I was talking about kind of makes sense. You see how it didn't quite get to the line, but pretty darn close, right? Did I want to know about that? Yeah, I probably wanted to be alerted to that, to see it. And now instead of duplicating, I'm just going to keep moving it and show you guys this. You see how that rate is still important, the reciprocal of it? Yeah, let's drag it way out here into the future and find something. Not bad. Because look what happens here. Don't you see this? There's the break, there's two retests, and you can't even get a close back below it. Closes above, no close below. This thing's ready to take off. And it certainly did, actually, right? Now, let's go out here to kind of recent history. Using that same rate, right? I don't know about you guys, but I find all of that there very interesting. And I find this interesting. I'm going to pick the default. And if I pull this down to that low, Jiminy. There's our point in time. It was 1 bar off from low there. In conjunction with that rate line, give you a pretty dynamite point in time to be looking for low. Those become really interesting and exciting places to look to apply, like I said, some of your option strategies. Because you can do this kind of work on any equity, any index. All right. So I'm going to pause it right here and ask if there are any questions on this, or if anybody's got an example, that specific symbol they want me to go look at and do something like this on. No, huh? All right. Well, in that case, I am going to flip back here, and I'll just leave that up for you guys, and I'll copy and paste it into the chat as well. I have appreciated everybody's time here. Thank you for listening to me and spending your time. I'm going to go paste this into the chat down here. Oh, I can't paste it. Hey, Kevin.
Yes. Greg.
Hey, there you are. I was just checking. Did I miss any questions? Can you see questions that I can't see by any chance?
Nope. Everyone is saying thank you. I see. You are an organizer, so you should be able to see the questions. You see the questions where it says questions with a down arrow. Maybe you got to click on the down arrow so it drops down.
Maybe. Oh, is that the deal? Let's see here. Oh, crud! There. So how do I make this bigger? Now I'm seeing them, and I
If
just didn't
you
see
look
them.
at where it says questions, Greg, and you follow that to the right, there's a little box with an arrow pointed to the left top corner. If you click that, it'll give you a
Yeah.
pop-out window, and you can see it much bigger.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey, humdinger, guys. I see it's the technically challenged amongst us, and that was me. Okay, so I've got a couple of minutes then, and let me make sure then that I would like to see a TSO. Ellis, now that I can see your question, we can do that. For Raju, that was the S&P that I was doing all that work on, by the way. So let me go look at TSO real fast. Here we go. So there's a little TSO. I'm Tessero, a little oil. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do on that one. I'll tell you what. I'm going to. Oh my goodness, that was a nice uptrend, right? So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to do it the opposite, actually, of the way that I just did it, because it works both ways. So I think it's important for you guys to see this. I'm going to take this rate line from back there, and this is, from the high, just so you get an idea if you want to do this own work on yourself. This is the 520 of 2013 high, and then I used the 8.2 of 2013 to generate that, right? Now I'm just gonna make myself one little duplicate. Not too bad. And now we don't have any real decent looking high pivots. So I'll just use this last one. That was still helpful right there, right? But now I'm just going to go ahead and come up with my reciprocal, because it looks like the market is no longer, trying to point itself down there, right? So I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. And then I'm just going to draw myself a nice little reciprocal. Real easy. So there's that low from back there. And I can just attach it to that end. That's not all bad. Gee whiz. And it keeps working. And it keeps working. So now, let's just drag it down here. We'll use that low. This is the one I used, just so you can see right back there. And son of a gun, if that didn't give you some pretty good ideas there, Alice. Did you see how I did that? Hopefully. And Johnny, thank you for the thanks. Posey, I'm going to do Priceline because the Dow is going to look almost exactly like a carbon copy of that S&P when I end up doing it. So because they're so highly correlated. Let's go look at Priceline real fast. Okay, so here's Priceline, and this is a daily chart, right? You guys, by the way, can do this on weeklies, on 5 minutes. If you're really fast, you can do them on super small time frames. I personally prefer the daily and bigger to give me these bigger areas to target, but just so you know, you can do this on any time frame. And like I said, that's one of the beauties of the eSignal charts, is that you can adjust them to whatever you want, hourly, 4 hourly, whatever. So okay, here's Priceline. And let's go pick up a swing from somewhere way back so that we can kind of see how this might have been able to help us in the future. And when I'm picking up these swings, guys, I apologize for not being able to just spend a ton of time talking to you about how I'm doing it, but I'm just looking for really big pivots typically, right, that led to good swings the rest of the market to start with. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay. So now I'm going to duplicate that one, and I'm going to bring it out here, and I'm going to grab this pivot back here. Not bad. I'm going to come up and grab this pivot here. Again, pretty good, right? And the way you can tell it's pretty good is what happened. Breaks it. A little bit more of a retest than I would typically like, but still a retest with a reversal bar on top of it. Then crack down. That was pretty darn good. That's a pretty good level, pretty good rate. All right. And then if I decide to do the reciprocal on this, pretty straightforward. Again, please don't get hung up on exactly where I clicked on the line because it doesn't matter. Oftentimes when I'm trying to teach people this stuff, they get very hung up. Well, how did you know to do it exactly that big? It doesn't matter, right? It's all about the ratio. It's not about the size. The ratio is still whatever the ratio is, no matter how big I make that, as long as I have the two corners on the line. All right. Let's take that high. Not bad. Wow. And you actually had an intersection. I like that. Let's go use this high now. Again, that's pretty good. Wow. Huh. So, I don't know. That was a decent test. A little noisy, but definitely a nice test. Definitely got you there. Gave you something on that high as well. And once it broke it, you did get that big gap and run. Now, I don't know. That looks like it was earnings related because I can see the earnings marker. Another nice little feature of these charts. So you may not have wanted to do anything going into that earnings, but certainly anywhere around in here and in here, pretty ideal stuff. How's the reciprocal made? I see Johnny's asking. It's just that you've got to use this little parallelogram / rectangle tool, Johnny. And then I'm going to do it right here before I run out of time. It's just one click on the line, and then you've got to set the other corner. And again, it just doesn't matter how big or how small I make that. Just make it so you can work with it. The other corner on the line. So it's pretty simple. 1 and 2 click. Once you've got that set, then you just go from the opposite corners. Right like that. And that's your reciprocal right there. You see that? All right. I think I'm going to take that as a yes and be mindful. Keep in mind, guys, grab that URL right there and take advantage of our offer if you would. Not only are we a great place to trade, but we hook into great tools like eSignal. You can get 3 months of it for free and a couple of $100 and some commissions to try it out. To try it out and run with it. And I hope to see you guys all as clients. And if nothing else, do some good support and resistance work in time and price for yourselves. It will lend some power to your trading. I appreciate it, and Kevin, you, Mark, the whole team at Real Traders, thank you very much.